Hello, Bronies and Pegasisters, it's me. Happy New Year. So, if you've seen my top 10 best episodes of Season 5 list, you probably know what this list is. The worst episodes of the season, by default, of course. I say that because I only find the last 3 to be legitimately mediocre or bad episodes. The other 7, including the dishonorable mention, are good, but just not as good as the ones that made it on the best list. So if you want to know my opinion on these episodes, this is the list to watch. Anywho, it's time for the top 10 worst Season 5 My Little Pony episodes. So, number 10, The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone. Yes, it's an episode from Amy Keating Rogers, and to be honest, the episode itself is actually pretty good, and I like it a lot more than Griffin the Brush-Off, as it's the episode where Gilda returns. Marika Hendricks does do a good job voicing her, and it was interesting to learn the history of Griffinstone, and it was also interesting to, just like Griffin the Brush-Off, see the relationship between Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash Bloom. And overall, the characters, the humor, and the story were fairly decent. The problem's minor, but enough to get it on this list. That being, I just didn't like any of the other Griffins. They're all greedy scumbags, with seemingly Gilda being the one exception that lightened up near the end. And I know she's trying to teach friendship to the Griffins while she's still in Griffinstone, selling Griffin scones. It must taste awful, by the way. But unless Gilda returns sometime in Season 6, I wonder if this plot element will go anywhere. Anyways, good episode, just not good enough to crack the top 10. Number 9, What About Discord? As much as I like What About Discord, I will agree that the story doesn't really go anywhere, and aside from one reference to time travel, where we see a cameo from Starlight Glimmer, it doesn't connect that well to the rest of the series. And Discord's humor, while certainly very humorous, was probably weaker than Make New Friends But Keep Discord and even the Return of Harmony two-parter. And to me, the raging climax just sort of felt like a tease. Oh well, we still got a great cameo from Zecora, some more instances of just Discord being Discord, and Neil Dusty Dow making up for one of his worst episodes, and I'll get to that later, don't get me wrong. Canterlot Boutique is number 8. To be honest, I liked Canterlot Boutique. The Rules of Rarity is an excellent song, and Sassy Saddles made for an interesting character for Kelly Sheridan to voice. But I just felt that the humor and most of the instances of conflict in the episode were just competent rather than excellent. Though the message of the episode about letting an artist bloom in the face of adversity from the customers that deny any sort of diversity from the artist is certainly a very strong one and can be connected to various YouTubers, including myself, and Tommy Oliver, as he stated in his Rarity Month review. I just wish there was a more entertaining episode attached to it, and I wish most of the greatest humor of the episode didn't come right at the very end, because right when I started laughing out loud the hardest, the episode was freaking over. Still, even though I felt this episode was slightly disappointing, it was a step up from the next one. Made in Manhattan. Again, this episode is not bad, it's just not a great episode. It was nice seeing Manhattan again, but I didn't feel the conflict was as pronounced or as memorable as Rarity Takes Manhattan. Though it was nice to see Coco Pamel return, and seeing her rather than Suri Polymere was certainly a nice change of pace. I would have liked a few cameos to come in, like I wanted to see Aunt Orange and Uncle Orange again, if they're still there, or just a quick little Bab Seed cameo other than the unspoken cameo that we saw walking around town. But yeah, that's about it. Number 6, Hearthbreakers. Essentially, it's a Christmas episode that came way too early, as it came out in late October and featured Pinkie Pie and Applejack making a Hearthswarming Eve adventure out of meeting their families. And it was nice to see Pinky's family and Applejack's family interact. Like, it was nice to see Igneous Rock and Cloud Quartz Pie come together and find out that it was a rock that actually convinced them to marry each other. And it was also nice meeting Pinkie Pie's sisters. Not just Maud, but also Limestone Pie and Marble Pie. But the problem is, Nick Confalone doesn't really give them a lot of characterization. So unless they reappear again, I don't see myself latching on to the characters that much. Plus, I felt that most of the conflict of the episode sort of felt like stuff I saw in 100 Christmas specials beforehand, making it very predictable and rather cliche. Still, it's an entertaining ride, and if you're looking for a Christmas special that'll tide you over in the My Little Pony hiatus, this one will do just fine. Number 5, the one where Pinkie Pie knows. The only episode written by G.M. Barrow, but honestly, I think her writing is better in the chapter books than it is on TV. Don't get me wrong, it's a decent Pinkie Pie comedy episode, and finding out that Shining Armor and Princess Cadance are having a baby was certainly unexpected, but that was the most unexpected thing to happen in the episode. I really only recommend watching this episode if you really like Pinkie Pie's comedy, as the story itself is pretty threadbare, and what G.M. Barrow does well for comedy, she doesn't do as well for most of the other things in the episode. If you want to see her best writing, I recommend some of her chapter books like the Pinkie and the Ponypalooza Party. That is certainly a great book. Number 4, Party Poot. Another Nick Confalone episode. And mainly my dislike of this episode, the things that I disliked, because overall I think this episode is decent, if it didn't have those dang yaks. The yaks I felt were not only annoying characters because of their constant yelling and their broken English, but also how they destroy everything, and that they're overly aggressive. And considering they come from a country called Yakistan, it makes me wonder if this is a joke at the expense of Afghanistan people. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah. But the things that I did like in this episode are still there. Pinkie Pie is still being Pinkie Pie. The comedy was certainly well done, and one of the biggest laughs of this whole season was finding out that Twilight was afraid of quesadillas. Yeah, that's the one thing that I don't have in common with her. I love quesadillas. Maybe I should make one for the next Brony convention I go to and just give it to a Twilight cosplayer. She'd freak out! Okay. Now these last 3 are episodes that I legitimately don't like. So if you like these episodes, great. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, it's just my opinion. Okay? Okay. Let us continue. Number 3, Scaremaster. If you saw my ranking of the My Little Pony writers, you know that I dislike the Staremaster, mainly because the comedy was very awkward, and to be honest, the episode didn't really pique my interest at all. And in many respects, Scaremaster unfortunately is in the very same fashion. I liked seeing Nightmare Night again, and I even got so excited to review the episode that I did it in costume. But the actual episode itself was pretty underwhelming, to be honest. Most of Fluttershy's humor was very slow-paced and, to be honest, not funny at all. And it came across with the timing of a premature strike. That is, except for the ending, which, like I said, is pretty fast-paced, pretty funny, and slightly morbid, if you ask me. But I shouldn't have to see 17 minutes of boredom just to get to the last 5 minutes of actual excitement. By no means one of the worst episodes of the whole series, but one of the low points of the season, in my opinion. Number 2, Appaloosa's Most Wanted. Now, since Crusaders of the Lost Mark came out, it's clear that this episode wasn't a filler episode, but it was instead foreshadowing what Crusaders of the Lost Mark would become. That is true, but that doesn't mean this episode isn't as mediocre as it still is. Brayburn was completely useless. Troubleshoes was not a very interesting character. He just felt like an XP of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. And to be honest, most of the episode's comedy just involves watching Troubleshoes suffer. It does feel pretty mean-spirited at times. Plus, it felt like most of the characters got hit with the idiot stick, especially most of the Appaloosans and Applejack. It just sucks seeing one of the funniest writers of the show, Dave Polsky, make an episode that's so boring. And honestly, if it wasn't for Crusaders of the Lost Mark, this episode would also be entirely pointless. But since it's not pointless, that's why it barely scratched out with the number 2 spot. Now, before I get to number 1, I'd like to mention my one dishonorable mention. Castle Sweet Castle. To be honest, it's more of an honorable mention for my top 10 list from beforehand, but people wanted to know what I thought about the episode. I think it's good. It's certainly a very well done episode, and I liked the Make This Castle a Home song. I just felt that there were some instances of the episode that felt like filler, and I felt that that Joanna Lewis and Christine Sonko were trying their hardest to hit that 22-minute mark by making the episode go on a little longer than it needed to be. But it's still funny, it's still entertaining, and the song is certainly very well paced. And my number 1 worst episode of My Little Pony Season 5, oh, who am I kidding? You know it's Princess Spike. Yep, the universally hated episode by nearly every My Little Pony reviewer. It's utterly mean-spirited, it doesn't develop Spike's character that much, it's painful to sit through, it's utterly insulting to his character, and it's seen by many fans as a complete waste of time. And I will agree, Princess Spike is an episode that mostly consists of Spike leading on a lie just so he can be in control of things around Canterlot, but it's also an episode with one of the most insultingly bad endings that you could think of. When Spike is about to sneeze, the sneeze that, destroys the crystal statue that we saw at the beginning of the episode. He does it once, which already gets him in hot water after everything else he screws up, but watching him do it again just to see the episode end right there is one of the biggest slaps in the face to a fan of the series that you'd expect. Just like the Great Divide from the Avatar, it is a great big mess. But to be honest, since there was only one episode that legitimately insulted me this season, I'm just glad that I was able to find a few things that I liked in it. Twilight's dialogue, what little there was legitimately funny. It was nice to see a Fargo reference from the pony from Minnesota. Oh. Yeah, the one that sounds like Margie from Fargo. And I felt that seeing more of the Canterlot delegates was interesting. So, that's my opinion of all of the episodes of Season 5. Tell me what your favorite or least favorite episodes are in the comments, and I'll see you next year. Happy 2016. Wait. One more thing. Me and my family will be in attendance at BabsCon 2016, so if you want to see me, look for the guy in the Captain America costume. I'll be there spreading my brony cheer. So, see you all at BabsCon this year, and look forward to my next reviews.